This is Radio Nepal. I'm Kaushal Khemire with the news. The headlines first. 7th meeting of Nepal-India Joint Commission concludes by signing 4 agreements. Nepal and India signed long-term agreement on exporting 10,000 megawatts of electricity to India in the next 10 years. Department of Foreign Employment suspends issuance of work permits to war-torn Ukraine and Russia. And U.S. to send top diplomats to Middle East as regional tensions spread. Now the news in detail. The 7th meeting of the Nepal-India Joint Commission concluded yesterday by signing 4 agreements. The meeting reviewed the entire gamut of bilateral relations and cooperation. The 2 countries signed agreements relating to bilateral network expansion, trade, water resources, and power trade. The agreements were signed in the presence of Foreign Minister Narendra Prakash Saud and Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Spokesperson at the Foreign Ministry, Amrit Bahadur Rai, informed that Nepal and India signed an agreement on Indian grant assistance for implementation of high-impact community development through government agencies. Other agreements signed by the 2 countries are long-term energy trade, cooperation between Nepal Electricity Authority and Indian Thermal Power Corporation on development of renewable energy, and between Nepal Academy of Science and Technology NAST and New Space India NSI on launch of Nepali satellite. As per Power Trade Agreement, Nepal would export 10,000 megawatt electricity to India in next 10 years. The Indian government has also announced 10 billion rupees grant assistance to Nepal for its post-quake reconstruction. Visiting Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar paid a courtesy call on President Ramchandra Paudel at Sital Niwas yesterday morning. On the occasion, President Paudel laid emphasis on the need of collaboration and cooperation in Nepal-India connectivity, mitigation of climate change impacts, and hydropower development. On the occasion, the Indian External Affairs Minister assured of continuing Indian support to Nepal. Similarly, Minister Jaishankar also paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal Prachanda at his office in Singh Durbar yesterday. The Prime Minister's Secretariat said during the meeting they held discussions on various topics related to bilateral collaboration and mutual interest. Prime Minister Dahal's Foreign Affairs Advisor, Dr. Rupak Sapkota, said the Prime Minister urged the Indian External Affairs Minister to hold discussion in the Nepal-India Joint Commission meeting and move ahead towards the implementation of the agreement signed during his visit to India last June. The Prime Minister stated that the agreement on electricity trade reached with India will prove to be a milestone for Nepal and India both, as well as for power trade between Nepal and Bangladesh. The visiting Indian External Affairs Minister also paid courtesy calls on Nepali Congress President Shabad Deva, CPN-UML Chair KP Sharma Oli, and Unified Socialist Chairperson Madhav Kumar Nepal, among other political leaders. Indian Minister Jaishankar is returning home today. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal Prachanda has said the ruling coalition has realized the need of national consensus to ensure effective operation of the Parliament and conclude the transitional justice-related works. Inaugurating the administrative building of Sunapati Rural Municipality of Ramechhap yesterday, Prime Minister Dahal stressed the need for national consensus for smooth parliamentary operation and for concluding remaining tasks of transitional justice. The Prime Minister committed to consolidating the current coalition. He, however, said national consensus was necessary in some pertinent agendas. The Department of Foreign Employment has decided not to grant work permits to Nepali nationals aspiring for employment in war-torn Russia and Ukraine. According to the department's director, Kabira Chupreti, the granting of work permits both individually and institutionally to the Nepali nationals for Russia and Ukraine had been suspended until further notice to prevent any untoward incident happening to the Nepali national going to these war-ravaged countries. You're listening to Radio Nepal's 8 a.m. English News Bulletin. On to some international updates now. The United States is to engage in renewed diplomatic push to calm tensions in the Middle East. The U.S. effort comes as the region teeters on the brink of regional conflagration following a suspected Israeli strike on Hamas leader in Lebanon, twin bombings in Iran, and no end in sight to Israel's war on Gaza. According to the Al Jazeera, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is scheduled to engage in some shuttle diplomacy while on a whistle-stop tour of several countries with a visit to Israel planned for next week. Ahead of his visit, Special Envoy Amos Hochstein, an experienced hand who has helped broker maritime talks between Israel and Lebanon in the past, is expected to lay the groundwork. In recent days, Israel has ramped up its attacks on Gaza, the occupied West Bank, Syria, and on Hezbollah and Hamas in Lebanon. It is suspected of killing top Hamas official Salah al-Arouri in Beirut on Tuesday. Ukraine and Russia have exchanged hundreds of prisoners of war in what is being described by officials in Kyiv as the biggest swap of the war. The BBC cited Ukraine as saying 230 prisoners, including serving members of the armed forces and border guard, had been freed from Russian captivity. In exchange, 248 Russians were released by Ukraine in the deal, mediated by the United Arab Emirates. It is the first major prisoner exchange since last August. Now, the general weather forecast for the country for today, according to the Meteorological Forecasting Division. The weather will be partly cloudy in the hilly areas of Kosi Province and Gandaki Province, and mainly fair in the rest of the country. There is also possibility of light snowfall at 1 or 2 places of the high hilly and mountainous region of Kosi Province and Gandaki Province. With this, we have almost come to the end of this news bulletin, but before wrapping up, let's have a reminder of the headlines once again. Seventh meeting of Nepal-India Joint Commission concludes by signing 4 agreements. Nepal and India sign long-term agreement on exporting 10,000 megawatts of electricity to India in the next 10 years. Department of Foreign Employment suspends issuance of work permits to war-torn Ukraine and Russia, and U.S. to send top diplomats to Middle East as regional tensions spread. Well, that's the end of this news bulletin from Radio Nepal for this hour. You can also visit our website www.onlineradionepal.gov.np for more news and online program. Our next news in English will be at 2 in the afternoon. Also do check our English news portal at www.onlineradionepal.gov.np/English. Keep listening to Radio Nepal and have a good day.